All right, this is a really interesting debate. We sort of had it before, but we didn't get to finish it. The IFAB, who are they exactly? The IFAB, what does that stand for?
I don't know off the top of my head. International Football Association Bureau. I don't know.
Yeah, Association of Bureaucrats has approved new tests for another type of offsides. As you can see right here, for you Americans out there that don't know the offsides rule, that might watch hockey, consider the offsides rule. The second to last defender, usually the guy ahead of the goalie, usually, unless he's the second to last defender for some strange reason. Which Onana has been a few times, I think, come to think, since I've been watching him, is sort of the blue line, if you want to make a hockey reference. Of course, the blue line's static. You got to imagine the blue line moving back and forth. There's some other subtle differences, but just for explanation's sake, get this. Now, I like this rule. Nick doesn't. I like it because it gives the linesman. One of the things I noticed growing up is I watch the offsides. I'd be at games, and I'm like, you know what? Those guys aren't getting it. The human eye can't catch it. Not that perfectly. Not this perfect line as you see in the one below. But if you're generally on line with the defender and receive a pass, this is going to count. This is going to be onside, which I have no problem with. I think it's going to add some speed to the game. I think it's going to make more exciting transitions. Those goals that took hella skill to put in and a team effort now are goals, and they're not offsides. You don't have to go, oh my God, that should be a goal. That's just by the effort alone, it should be a goal. I think in a lot of cases those are off much better, because I don't like that this a Zlatan nose can keep you offside under the current system, and I think the current system is really dictated by computers, which people aren't computers, linesmen aren't computers. And by the way, I don't blame any of the linesmen for blowing these cars. I don't. I think this is a lot easier for them to call. You disagree with me profusely. Do you think that's because you're kind of a traditionalist, or I don't know? What's your problem? What's your issues with this?
Maybe it is I'm a traditionalist because I grew up watching it, so maybe I like to stick with the rules because I don't see a problem. But I genuinely don't think that this adds more clarity to the offside situation. I think all it does is move the goalpost from behind the defender to in front of the defender. I think if that guy, the attacker in yellow in the bottom graphic, if he's a couple centimeters back, right, his foot will then keep him offside, whereas obviously he's offside there because he's all the way. If, let's say, his foot is slightly behind the kneecap of the defender there, he's onside, but I don't trust the lino to fully be able to see, especially considering the height of his foot and the height of the defender's knee make it even harder to tell whether they're in line or not because one's below the other. I think that creates just as much issues as the current offside rule, and so I don't think there's more clarity there.
Do you think if his foot, the way I understand the graph, let's say the back foot on the bottom part is in line with his shin or his toe or his knee, the way I understand this, and maybe I'm understanding this wrong, he's onside. That I would think that's a lot easier to call, but if I'm wrong, that's where VAR comes in, because I don't think we're abandoning VAR for something like this. I think we're just, giving the attacker a little bit more of an advantage, because the current offsides rule is just so stringent, and I don't think can be called consistently correctly from the naked eye. Am I off here? I think this allows and by the way, not just professional football. This allows a lot of leeway. I would think if it works, assuming it works, and there's a chance it couldn't, for regular linesmen for Sunday leagues and linesmen for like a league you for like a fifth tier league that you have guys that potentially could break into a League One or two. In England, I think this kind of helps them as well, because not everybody can have a VAR, and you can't have, freeze frame slow motion technology to see if you have a booger offsides, or a mustache offsides.
I mean, yeah, but then I think all of that does is make more goals happen, but not necessarily the right decisions happen. I think the margins are so thin with this. compare. I think it's just as thin margin as the normal offside rule as this one would be. But the only thing that's going to happen is instead of more goals being called offside when they shouldn't have been, this is going to see more offside goals called onside because they're maybe a tiny bit, like their foot's a tiny bit forward from the defender.
That's a really good point.
Lino, it looks like his foot is in line.
Let me meet you halfway here. How about this? I think anything like this should be tested because there's, you're saying it's going to be bad for reason A. I'm saying it's going to be good for reason B or bad for reason C, and it could be D and F, and we don't know it till it's tried. Would you like to see this applied? I would like to see like a Vinny Jr. because like really fast players to see how it affects them, and maybe in some friendlies, in combination with VAR, in combination with offsides technology, that I'm keep being told is going to be implemented. I don't know how. There's another problem altogether. We don't know how that's going to work. Do you want to see it first? And I want to see it in more than one game too, and then we make our decision because I don't think you want those goals called back. I don't think you want those goals called back. Green Man's here. Green Man, did I invite you in here? Ladies and gentlemen, the Green Man is here. How are you? I know you. I know you're dying to chime in this offsides rule. Let's hear the Green Man.
The game's fucking dead. I'm telling you. They keep changing it.
Can we continue our podcast, Green Man? Come on, honestly, you're a smart guy. What's wrong with this? Tell us what's wrong with this.
The problem is they keep unnecessarily changing stuff. Like, everybody is complaining about the rules being like how we keep bringing in new rules. We don't like these new rules. And they're like, okay, here's another new rule for you to understand and complain about. At the end of the day, it feels like football is no longer about football, and it's about all these things and people outside the game trying to influence it. And I don't know, it just seems like, why do you need all these people micromanaging football? Like, we don't need this.
Do you think this is a micromanagement? I think this is a chance to make it less micromanaged or less computerized and more, like there's going to be human error. Humans run the game. There's going to be human error. And instead, like I've seen guys in bars just like, I can't believe you blew that offsides. Yes, because the naked eye can't see that. You have the benefit of looking at stop motion and slow motion. Like don't you think this don't you hate when a really great skill team goal gets blown offsides because Zlatan's nose is offsides? Doesn't like this may help that, and it may make something else worse. I fully admit. I mean, I think this. I don't know if it was just a bunch of bureaucrats in the UEFA, I'd be on your side. But I think this is trying to make the game a little better.
I don't know, like who asked for this though? Like it wasn't as if people like.
That's a good question. I have no idea who asked for this. I'll be honest with you. I think they would. I would have been much happier with them being like this natural position bullshit with the handball, which really needs a lot more attention than the offsides. I'll give you that. I don't know who asked for it. Maybe it's those Glazers and those filthy Americans that are in the game, just screwing everything up for you Europeans. But I saw it. I don't like the offsides. I'm not particularly happy with it. I think a lot of the stuff. I know your other Scottish friend, Mr. Rangers, Will. He thinks that there should be some changes like that, and he's old school, like you guys. So I don't think this. I don't think this particular case. But I'll give you this. This is not a top priority, this offsides thing. Get the handballs in check. Define a natural position, because a natural position means something when you're standing, natural when you're in the air, and a natural position is different when you're getting like a rocket shot at you at 70 miles an hour, and where you are, and intent. Define handballs first, before you do something like this.
I feel like this is a part of like a wider image of them just ruining football with all of like this new bullshit to make it something new and like more fast and more exciting and more like FIFA. It's almost like yeah.
Sounds horrible.
That's what they're trying to
do. So are you going to walk in front of a bus? Do you need is that black pill that heavy? Are you going to end it all now?
Well, you tell me the people who run football feel Europhobe. They don't feel Europhobe.
No, they are a bunch of dopes that run football. But I mean, you could say that about any sport.
They tried to bring in a blue card. These are the
Yeah, I
same
know.
people
Well, the
that
blue
just
card. Oh,
ignore
we're
them.
on the same side with the blue card. I could be talked into one less game for suspension for straight red, but the blue card is ridiculous. I'm not even getting into that because I'm 100% on your side. And by the way, even though I'm a new American in the game, I do. If the game's going to survive, tradition has to survive with it. And I do understand that, but like, if we're counting, like, why even have the linesman in the first place if we're gonna, like, call a whisker offsides? That's my question. And again, you're right. Like, get the handball thing, then maybe work on the offsides. I don't know. Let's move on to a.
One second, I just want to circle back to that quickly.
Sure.
One of my other big issues isn't necessarily the calling offsides being the issue. I think it will affect games negatively because, as someone who used to play as a defender, and like, I really value the defensive side of the game, I think this is giving so much more advantage to attackers that I think it will negatively affect the game. Because like, playing the offside trap is a huge, great tactic which a lot of great sides use.
It's like, kind of over. No, you're right. Offside under this rule, I could see there's no offside trap. I got to give you that.
Because you're allowing strikers to have a head start on runs in behind defences, that it will encourage so many more people to just sit back and defend, like, instead of pushing defensive lines forward, because everyone's going to be scared that if I play my defenders forward, are they going to have the speed to be able to catch a guy who is already a step ahead of them in a race to get the ball that's launched forward? Which means more people are going to sit back. You're going to see less.
That's a great point.
Less pressing.
That's probably the best point you've made.
In that.
Yeah.
Else,
the main issue with it is, I think it gives an unfair advantage to attackers, which will then negatively affect everything, where defenses will have to be so much more careful with how they play.
Green Man.
I think he's 100% right. By the way, like, it's just going to encourage people to play negative football to cope with the fact that if you play a high line and this new offside rule comes in and you're up against someone fast, well, why would you ever play a high line?
Never.
You just sit deep.